Hello and welcome to episode 149 of the Rollo and Slappy Show. Today is June 17th, 2019. I am Rollo McFlugel, and with me is Slappy Jones 2, and we are both from McFlugel.com. Show notes page for this episode is McFlugel.com /149, where you'll be able to find some links to the things we talk about, as well as checking out our sponsors, such as LibertyMugs.com and also 10hoursofbitcoin.com, where you can claim a $500 reward payable in Bitcoin if you help us out and put together a little wiki thing for us. So check out 10hoursofbitcoin.com. Talk to me for questions and get your help set up with that if you're interested in that. Before we get started, Slappy, yesterday was Father's Day, so happy Father's Day.
Oh, thank you.
Hope you had a good day. Did you get a tie as a gift?
No, my they'll be coming. My kids aren't old enough to go out and get me a gift, and so I'm sure I'll get plenty when they're able to.
Okay.
I did get a subscription to XM radio, so I get to listen to the Beatles all day in the car.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was a good Father's Day for me. Plus, I got to watch golf. What else happened this weekend? Jesse Hart won. Moving up to light heavyweight, Philly guy. Beat Sullivan Barrera.
Nice
win for him. Sloppy fight, but he got the W. So, yeah, it's a good weekend.
There you go. I got a nice Father's Day gift from Grum, because I guess I have to call myself
Oh, you're one of those guys.
A cat dad. Cat dad. Girls call themselves dog mom, so I'm going to call myself a cat dad.
Yeah. What'd you get? A full litter box?
Basically.
Nice.
A lot of fur just pulled out.
Catch any mice for you or anything?
I don't have
birds, mice.
There have not been any mice in my house, which is kind of surprising. I've seen mice outside and everything else. I would like him to go kill the groundhog that destroys my garden and all the deer, but I don't let him outside.
Yeah, I keep my cat inside too.
Too much treachery outside for a cat that was not allowed outside before I got him. So,
did I ever talk about my foxes on the show?
I don't know. You've told me,
but they left.
Oh, really?
I had a whole family. I haven't seen them in I don't know, a couple of weeks. But it was fun. It's fun watching them grow up. It was hard to see them go, but you gotta let them go.
Absolutely. Did they like eat all of your neighbor's chickens? And
chickens are still there.
Yeah.
Maybe my neighbor got the foxes. I don't know. He didn't tell me, but the foxes are no longer in my backyard.
He's going to be wearing like fox pelts, walking around like, oh, those look nice. Where'd you get them?
I'll tell you, these foxes were beautiful animals with these like bright red coats. It was pretty cool. It's cool to see them.
I've got a fox near me, and he is old and mangy and like gray.
Yeah, great. Is it a red fox? Do you know?
Yeah, I think
there's gray foxes around. I don't know if they're officially called.
I think he's a red fox, but just old and just as seen. Maybe he is a gray fox. A gray fox is bigger.
I don't know.
I don't even know if gray, because I've never seen gray foxes otherwise.
Okay,
here, so I don't know. Someone will probably comment.
Yeah,
idiot gray foxes live in Russia.
No, well, I'm not going to pretend to be a fox expert here, but I did do a lot of research, and when I had a family in my backyard, because the mom, and I don't know if it's a big brother or dad or who, but there was 2 red foxes, and their babies had like gray coats, but as they got older, started seeing the red. It was pretty cool.
Right.
Anyway, today's episode, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. Might as well.
So we're going to talk about, what is he, pastor, officer?
He's both.
Yeah, officer / pastor, Grayson Fritts down in Knoxville, Tennessee. Is that right? Knox County or Knoxville?
Yeah, Knoxville County.
Knoxville County, Tennessee. Isn't that where Kane is?
Yes.
Cool. So anyway, Grayson Fritts was up at the pulpit giving a sermon that kind of made its rounds online a little bit. Now This put it out there, and he was saying essentially that the government should put murderers, rapists, kidnappers, adulterers, sodomites to death. And he was very emphatic about it. And he kept referencing Leviticus 20:13 and said that he was saying the government should adopt Leviticus as its laws. If I heard him correctly, is that
Yeah,
right?
basically he was. Yeah, and he was, just so it's clear. I mean, he was really thumping
Oh,
on,
he was animated, man. He was angry. He was going.
especially on the fact that it should be applied to gay people.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what.
yeah. That was his emphasis.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's funny because a lot of times you hear stories like, oh, someone's being homophobic or whatever, anti-gay, and really calling for violence. He goes, oh, okay, let's hear what he actually says. It's probably not that bad. And you listen to this, and you're like, oh man, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is
No,
over
this
the
guy.
top.
Yeah, he was over the top quite a bit. Now, one thing where I guess tongue in cheek should give him credit is he said not Christians. He wants God to punish them, and so what he said was, not Christians, not you, unless you're a policeman.
Yeah, and then kind of got a chuckle from the audience because guess what? He's a policeman too.
Yeah, so he kind of played his hand on who his God is, that he thinks the police should put gays to death or adulterers, kidnappers, rapists, and murderers.
In fairness to him, because this is kind of where, I mean, we're going to talk about this a little bit, I think. But he was saying, like, I don't think he was claiming that he was going to go out or thought the cops should go out and just start.
He actually did emphasize this point too. Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's important to note, I guess.
Yeah, that he's not suggesting that he was going to go out and start shooting gay people. It was that like any other crime, if I think he said something like this, that if you're, you get arrested, and then after, I think he even said this, after a fair trial,
he did say that
if you're found guilty of homosexuality, then you get put to death.
Yeah, death penalty. He said a judge can do it, and I guess so. He wants the laws to change, and until the law of the United States changes, I guess he's not going to. I don't think he has. I think we would have heard about it.
Yeah, so there was follow up to this, obviously, and the media questioned him on it, and he had opportunities to explain it, and I'll try to remember to link this in the show notes page. But he kind of was interviewed. I don't know if it was outside his house or something with a lot of the press there, and he explained it like this. He said, "Look, if I worked at Burger King and a gay guy walked into the restaurant and ordered the hamburger, it's like, I'm going to make him a hamburger and give it to him. He's like, I'm not going to do anything and mess it up. It's
my job. I got to do my job. I have a job to do."
That's what he said. It's like, my job is to make hamburgers, and I don't care. Like, my job is not to care about if you're gay or straight or not. And he's like, that's kind of what I'm doing with the police. It's like, I'm not saying people should go out and be vigilantes.
He did explicitly say that too in his sermon. I mean, not in any way to defend this guy, but he did say that, like, not you. You should not be doing this.
Right, which is funny.
Yes.
Because he's like, I don't think that people should do, your average person should do this. I think the government should do it. So
which, if you're not already, if you haven't seen this, go check it out. And if you're anything like us, you'll probably be thinking of the obvious implications of his ideas.
Yeah, but it's funny that, like, he is the perfect little government stooge.
Exactly.
That he and it's funny too, because he kept trying to defend himself by being like, I'm just preaching the Bible, and there's a lot of other pastors out there and a lot of people that are too afraid to be saying what I'm saying, but I'm gonna go out and preach what he thinks the Bible teaches. And but the great irony here is that he's calling himself like such a firm defender of God and the Bible, I guess. But then he's deferring to government because he hasn't gone out and done anything like this, as far as I'm aware.
And he says he wouldn't.
Right. And, I saw this, they had the little thing in the one article I saw, because I'm sure they went through and tried to find any record of his police work as they could. And like the worst thing I saw was that apparently he has fired 2 shots in his career and both missed. If he were shooting gay people because they were gay, then we would know about it. Mm-hmm. But like he's clearly, as far as all the information we have, And there's been, almost a week or so, maybe 4 to 7 days that this has been out there. The media's had time to, dig through this, and they always pull something up. So if they have not been able to pull up any dirt on him, I would imagine that he, as far as what normal polite society would call a good cop, he probably fits that description. So it's really, really ironic to me that he's talking such a big game about like what it is to be a follower of God and the Bible, but then he just defers to what the government says to do. And he's like, if you're saying that someone does something that the punishment should be death, but then you turn around and say like, well, if my boss tells me not to worry about it, then you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. Like, what in the world? Like, what this is the guy that would have been the slave catcher.
This guy would have been taking people off the trains at Auschwitz.
Yeah, and it would have been like,
well, I'm against it. I don't think it's right, but
I have a job to do, and
it's my job. I signed up for it.
Yeah. And so it's like this. It's so weird because I don't know if that kind of also I don't know what to think about this guy because I clearly don't know him. Right. But is he using that as an excuse because he doesn't actually want to go through with this kind of stuff? Or is he just that like is he that much of a worshiper of the state that he doesn't even realize what he's doing?
Very good question.
Because it is easy. It's easy to, because he knows it. He knows that what he's saying is unpopular. So it's very easy to kind of like talk that talk and be like, well, there's not much that we can do right now. It's we got to have the government because didn't he bring up something from the Bible where it's like God ordained the civil governments to enact his rule or something. I think he made some sort of reference to that. And so it's like it's a very convenient cop out to be like, well, I believe this and we should do it. But it's actually, even though that God's telling me to do XYZ, and it's very clear that that's what God wants, the people that God has in charge of me,
I think he
are saying the opposite of don't do XYZ. So I guess I should follow that. Like if that's kind of a contradiction that you're presented with through your belief system, then like you should really rethink it, because God is saying that the truth is two opposing ideas, which can't be correct.
Right. Not to mention, I mean, he is a Christian. He says that several times. How does he answer for Christ ignoring these laws in the New Testament?
Well, I mean, did Jesus ignore him? I mean, I'm pretty sure that when they had the prostitute, the adulterer, wasn't.
He said, "What does Leviticus say? He who reads Leviticus shall throw the first stone."
Yeah, well, I mean, they were ready to stone this woman to death, and Jesus ran up and grabbed some rocks and was the first one to throw them at her.
Yeah, he's like, "No, the Leviticus says this. You must do it."
He also said when your brother is sinning that you should grab a big pair of pliers to pull the plank out of his eye.
Out of his eye, yeah.
And then like all sorts of stuff like that is plastered all throughout the Bible. So I mean,
love your neighbor as yourself unless he violates Leviticus.
Unless he's gay.
Yeah. That was, I think, the quote.
And that's not to like, I don't want people to think that we're saying that like, certain religions, because we're both Catholic and we have our moral views on sexuality that I agree with the church on. And so we're not trying to say like, oh no, that there's no religious moral implications for homosexuality, but Like the clear response is not to like commit violence against them. I mean, you're
Thou shalt
violating
not kill is pretty clear.
Yeah, and I think it's I think two guys being together is I think it would be much worse to kill someone than to have two guys, doing whatever they're doing together. Like that shouldn't be that like, whoa, really?
Right.
So and the Catholic Church teaches, and I know a lot of other religions too do this, where it's love the sin or hate the sin. And I mean, I know people get a little bit uncomfortable with bringing this up. That's saying like, you might disagree with homosexuality, but it's like that's why cherry pick that. There's plenty of other behavior that is considered sinful that you shouldn't approve of that behavior. But it's not like if you were using your religion's moral teachings to be the reference as to whether you were going to interact with other people and whether or not you should hate them, well, then you're probably going to hate like literally everyone in the world, probably yourself included, because no one's perfect with this stuff. So, there's nothing wrong with having strong convictions for morality, but have some compassion and see the humanity in your fellow man. And I mean, I think it's pretty easy not to be like this guy, at least, because this hasn't been really making the rounds that much.
No, and I wonder why that is. Maybe it's just because he is like he really does come across as like unhinged.
No one is going to defend that.
No one's going to defend the guy. There was a couple amens you heard from the crowd.
It sounded like one guy.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Like when I say a couple, I mean a couple.
And who knows how big this
he might have been talking to two people. We have no idea. He couldn't see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only familiar with my experiences in church, and there's different sized. I know when I went to mass during Childerberg in Texas, and I found a church nearby, and I don't know how big Knoxville County is and how dense the population is, and it's got Knoxville in it, right? But I don't know how. A lot of places you have the city and then you're in the sticks as soon as you go out of the city. The church I was in at Childerberg was like shockingly small. So, and I know even up here, like Catholic churches, there's a lot more Catholicism up here, I would say, or a lot more Catholics. So the Catholic churches tend to be, not tiny. But I've been in and around like other Christian, especially non-denominational churches, and they're not necessarily that big. So I don't think we have to worry about there's like these hordes of whatever religion this guy is being like, we're trying to pass laws to kill gay people.
Because it was actually, it was pretty absurd. Like, yeah, that's why I don't think it's getting attention. It was just really absurd.
Yeah, because the media likes to pull,
but only if it's going to get some chat. Like no one's going to be like, well, this is what Christians think,
right? Because you always hear like throughout any of these, like even the people that the left ascribes as the most like hateful, homophobic people, like the dude that didn't want to bake the gay wedding cake, which apparently they were going after him again recently.
For what?
Someone.
Same deal?
Well, someone wanted him to make like a pink cake with blue icing. And he was like, okay, yeah. And then they said, it's for my sex change celebration. And he's like, I'm not going to bake that cake. But he was like willing to do it. Just like, oh, okay, you just pick me. And then they like told him like it was more entrapment again.
Yeah.
And that guy is another guy. That poor guy. He's just like a baker, just like, hey, I don't want to participate in your thing. You could do it. Just don't ask me to be involved. Right. And they make him out to be the, the insane, hateful guy. And of course, because he's not, people that are kind of on his side are going to really take up, um, go to defend him pretty strongly.
Sure.
And then you got the people on the other side that want to make up, you know, horror stories about this kind of stuff, and so they'll push back. But yeah, like I agree with you. There's no way anyone was going to look at this and be like, oh yeah, this is what
Yeah.
normal people think.
I mean, if it was something like, there's still a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of Christians in this country. No one's going to buy that. If it was something like, I don't know, LDS or a smaller religion that people aren't as familiar with, maybe they could have brought it up.
Right.
But even then, I don't know. I don't think this had legs.
No.
The guy was unhinged. He was. I can't believe there's people in his congregation, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I only heard one guy saying amen, so he might have been preaching to one other guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, anyway, I mean, we live in society where like gay people seem pretty more comfortable than in the past to come out and be explicitly gay. So if it really were that dangerous, then I think you would
They wouldn't be doing that.
Right. I think it's pretty natural. If the more threatened you feel or more unsafe you would feel if you were out of the closet, I think you would have less instances of it.
Right.
So I don't know
what else? What else? So do you think this was something I said earlier when we were talking about doing this for an episode, but do you think it would have had any reaction if he was saying put drug dealers to death? I mean, it would to me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to, because I wasn't thinking about the when you said that earlier about that like no one would think this guy is anything but crazy now, but it's actually more acceptable to say you should execute drug dealers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually some laws that they're trying to get put on the books. Did Canada do that or something? Try to do that?
I don't know. That's crazy.
But there was some place that they were trying to put it on the books that you could be executed for selling drugs. I think it was more if your drugs cause someone to die.
Huh.
Then you would.
Then you're an accessory to murder or something, or
you would not. You would be the murderer.
You're actually the murderer.
Yeah.
Huh. What if you sold someone like, I don't know, 10 pills and you're supposed to take one at a time, but he took all 10?
Yeah, I think they would be like, no, you're the murderer.
You sold it to him.
Yeah.
Does that go for doctors, pharmacists as well?
I don't think so. Or does it apply to the state store that sells liquor?
Liquor, yeah. If you drive your car, do you go to prison?
Yeah, you put all the government in prison because they someone did something bad after drinking alcohol they bought at their store.
All right.
No, I mean that's a good question. I think people would. I think it might have been a bigger story, ironically.
Like I've heard people even, as the war on drugs is clearly a failure by any measure you want to come up with, it is a total failure. You'll start to hear people, especially boomer types, say things like, because you could be like, yeah, well, your grandson, what, you think you should throw him in prison? Well, no, not him, but the SOB who sold him the stuff should.
Yeah. We just need to have harsher I love those people. We just need to have really harsh penalties.
Don't punish the user, punish the dealer.
Yeah.
Which I've heard that before from a couple times. Which I don't know where that line of thinking comes from. Probably because they know drug users and don't want to throw their drug users in prison.
Yeah, and I think too that just like the drug dealer has this sort of stigma about him.
He's the bad guy with the gun and
yeah, he's got guns and he's got the trench coat and dark alleys.
He's the one who sold it. Like the user didn't willingly buy it; it was forced on him.
Right. Yeah.
Punish the car dealer, not the car driver.
Exactly.
So anyway, you got anything to add on Fritzy?
Not really. Just it was kind of an interesting glimpse into the mind of someone like that. That's,
That
you
he's
know,
just totally owned by the state.
yeah, because it was funny. Before I read the follow up stuff, I originally wanted to take it as like, man, this is like really, this is kind of the dangerous guy who's the cop that, you know, under normal circumstances, if you just had a random person say stuff like this, it's like, all right, well, he's kind of an idiot, but he's just like screaming into the void without any actual power to do this. And it's like, well, no, wait, this guy's a cop.
Right.
This guy's the guy walking the streets with the gun who can frame a gay guy some way in order to get him a situation where he can, arrest him or just flat out kill him or hurt
But
him
that
otherwise.
is another point. Like, you know, with what about the gay people in Knoxville? How would they feel with him being a cop?
Right. I mean,
Even
not
though
even
he's probably, like you're saying, like just Mr. State Man. If the state tells him to jump off a bridge, he'll go do it.
yeah.
And so he won't enforce a bad law. And who knows what his deal is. But even if that is the way he is, and even if he has a clean cop record and he's as you said earlier, a quote good cop, would you feel comfortable having him around?
No,
You're a
absolutely not.
taxpayer. Would you want to call him?
No, and that's where like for gay people who live around him, like they're absolutely justified in feeling very uncomfortable
Yeah,
by him being around and walking around carrying a badge and having the strong arm of the law behind him and through the barrel of his gun. I mean, that's a terrible situation to have, and we always like to try to come up with how would the market handle this problem that we're having with the state, and it would just be like the guy would get fired immediately.
yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, whether these the gay people in Knoxville like him or not, they still got to pay for him. Now, I don't know if he fired or did he step down or anything
I think he was on some sort of
paid
leave
leave or
already. I
something.
think he was already on leave for something. I don't know if it was like personal or what, but I think don't quote me on it, but I think he might be suspended now pending an investigation. But that's another thing. Like, your coworkers generally what they think about certain things, especially when they're like really passionate. Like I can go around and talk about like my coworkers, what their main passions are, whether it's like motorcycles or,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, some sort of sport or something. I have a hard time believing that the other people in his precinct or department or whatever didn't know that this guy really, really hated gays. Like,
Yeah.
it
I
has
mean,
to come
unless
out.
it's like he's totally different when he's not. I mean, he gets in there. That's like his spot with, like, like a locker room, as they talk about in sports. When you're in the locker room, you say, what we say here, what we see here stays here when we leave here. That kind of attitude. And then you go out in front of the press, you go out in front of the people, you're on the field. You're not going to say the same things you say when you're in your little closed space. But he was recording this and somehow it got out. I mean, it's not a grainy video. He obviously recorded it.
And two, he's talking about how he's, wants to have the courage to preach what he believes in. So I don't think you hide that under that that bushel basket when you're doing your day to day stuff.
But you know what? He said that his religion or whatever takes a backseat to the state anyway.
Right.
Like he's preaching these things and then saying, "But don't do it."
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that he's like, I'm not saying that. I don't know. It's tough to say. It's all. I mean, we're guessing.
It's all guessing anyway. But I'm just saying, like, I put it this way? I have a feeling his coworkers knew exactly what he thought,
Right.
but I could see where it's like, I mean, my coworkers know at least loosely my ideas.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know exactly what he thinks because I'm sitting in his congregation pew every Sunday.
Well, yeah, yeah.
How did you know there was only one guy saying yes and amen?
Yeah, you accidentally let that recording out.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure that his coworkers knew, or at least had an idea.
Right.
A strong idea. But all my coworkers don't know I host a podcast.
Yeah, mine really don't know either. I think a couple might, but
Yeah, a couple of mine do. But and I don't hide my views, but I also don't talk about them as much as I do when I'm sitting with you or having a cigar and talking about these ideas.
right, right.
I don't know what that has to do with anything. The guy clearly came across as an a-hole and seemed unhinged, and I wouldn't want him serving my community.
No, me neither.
So I guess that's the point.
Yep.
So you got a free market story?
Normally, like I figured that. Well, yeah, I'll tell it.
Okay.
Um, it was the last week when we recorded our episode. I was in a hotel room in Killeen, Texas, because my flight got canceled for that night, and it was um, I went to the next day. I went to the airport to catch the flight that they rescheduled me for, and as I got there, I got an email from the airline saying that my flight from Dallas to Philadelphia was canceled. I was taking from Killeen to Dallas, and so they I went up to the person at the computer, and they're looking for different flights, and everything was either canceled. Basically, Killeen only flies to Dallas, pretty much. It's a little rinky-dink airport. It's really small, and so everything in basically the entire state of Texas flying to Philadelphia was either canceled or already booked until like 3 o'clock the next day. So I was originally supposed to fly out Sunday evening, and now I was flying out late Tuesday afternoon. So I went back, sat down, pulled my laptop out, and started looking for other flights, and found the flight out of St. Louis the next morning.
Which is right around the corner.
Yeah, totally right around the corner. So I went up and I went to the booth and said, "Hey, there's this flight in St. Louis. Can you book me for that?" And actually, I wasn't paying for this flight because I was using my brother's airline miles. So this also was kind of an interesting little tidbit. But they said, they looked at me crazy, said like, "Well, you got to get there, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll get there." And they said, "Oh, okay." And so they changed the flight for me without any additional cost, and it was at 5:50 a.m. This flight was supposed to leave out of St. Louis. And I had previously called the airlines to try to change the flight, but there was like apparently all over the place they were having issues. So it was like an hour and 15 minutes at least to wait. So they just said, "Hey, press 1 and we'll call you up when you get an operator." So I just, saw that the line at the airport was short. So I just went up there and talked to him. So right after I got that flight changed, I walked the couple hundred feet over to the rental car places and went to, I think, my third or fourth booth before someone had something available, and they said, "We only have SUVs." So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." Really wanted the tractor from
Might not have got you there on time, though.
Yeah, but next time.
Would have been stylish, though.
Oh yeah. So I left that airport with my shiny SUV rent-a-car and drove from Killeen to St. Louis. And during that trip, I was starting to get worried because I left there around like 1:30, and it was a 12 and a half hour drive according to Google Maps for 800 miles. So I was getting nervous at like, all right, what if I hit a lot of traffic? What if I get sleepy? It's going to be tough for me.
That 2 a.m. traffic in the middle of Arkansas. It's brutal.
Yeah, well, I was more concerned. I discovered the beautiful traffic in Dallas.
Oh, I bet that was good.
Because I was driving through Dallas and through rush hour, basically. And I was also just concerned about, like, I've got at least 12 to 14 hours of driving, or at least in my car with, stopping to get gas and eating and drink, and taking naps and everything. So the airline did end up calling me back while I was driving. And I'd known that there was an 8:50 a.m. flight too, so I asked to change it to that, and they said no problem, and they did it. And so they changed my flight. let's see, one, two, I think it was like 4 or 5 times it was changed. At all at no additional cost to me. They were willing to just like, if there was an open seat, just kind of rebook it, even though we're like kind of changing what I was doing.
Why would you have been willing to pay to get your flight changed?
Oh, because I wanted to get home. I valued getting home and not being stuck in a military town. It has nothing to me being not wanting to be stuck in Killeen. It being a military town had nothing to do with it being like the military and having any sort of ideological principles over it.
We just lost the biting the bullet people.
Yeah, well, too bad. But no, this is a practical consequence of having a military town is that those towns that are right next to bases, like no one's gonna put roots down in there, so it is just like the most boring town in the world. So I was ready to just like, if I was in like an interesting city, then we'd be like, all right, well I can explore and everything and kind of have fun. But this was like, this is brutal. So, well, even though I didn't get charged more for an airline ticket, I did have to pay for the rental car and everything, and it was not inexpensive. So
where I was going with that is, critics of capitalism say all you are is dollar signs. Well, they could have made dollar signs if you'd be willing to pay even just $30.
Oh yeah.
So there had to be some other motivation than, I mean, obviously, ultimately it's dollars. They probably think if you buy your next flight from them or if they give you a good experience, you'll continue to buy from them. But the point is they had a chance to make money, even if it was just a little bit.
Sure. Oh yeah, because you add that up. I mean, just like you said, $30. It might not be a lot in that one instance, but you think about how many times people have to change their flights.
Yeah, and $30, depending on who you are in your situation, but you may not even like that. Might not even give you a bad taste. You might be like, "Thank God, it's only $30 to change the flight."
Right.
It's still $30 to them, and like you said, multiply that by whoever's changing flights. But I guess they see more value out of doing it for free to keep you happy. You're already stressed and unhappy that your flight got canceled or changed or whatever the case was. So
yeah.
That's the market at work.
Yeah, it all worked out. I don't know that I made the best decision because I got to about the point where it was too late to turn back. And I was like, what am I doing? This is brutal.
Yeah, that's not an easy ride, man.
No, it like Texas was interesting. And even Oklahoma, I drove through like the eastern portion of Oklahoma. There was a lot of water, some mountains. It was pretty nice. And then once I got onto I-44 in Missouri and drove across the state on that, it was dark out.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see anything other than a couple deer on the side of the road, which made for a little more high alertness. But
yeah, I once drove from North Indiana down to Houston.
Ooh, yeah, that's a similar drive.
Yeah, not an easy drive. We actually made a detour to stop in St. Louis to catch a baseball game in the middle of it.
Oh, nice.
But not an easy drive.
Yeah. Especially when you're just not seeing anything and on a highway with just a bunch of trucks. You know what? I actually was thinking about why am I blanking on his name? We just had him on the podcast. Our trucker friend. I feel like such a jerk for
Quincy.
Yeah, Quincy. I couldn't think of his old Twitter name.
Well,
I was thinking about like I'm not going to call him by his new Twitter name.
So like Quincy loves BBWs or something like that.
Yeah. But Quincy. I was thinking about Quincy because it's like, man, because it was just like me and a bunch of trucks driving around. So I'm like, I wonder if one of these is Quincy. But like,
send him Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I was being a safe driver.
There you go.
But I also want to say, we talked about Childerberg a little bit last week, but I was talking to some of the people from Childerberg and very appreciative of people offering, help, even like to crash at their places they were offering, so it shows the quality of people that were down there. So
of the cult members.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some,
What's that?
Did you get that buzzing?
You know.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just on my end. I forgot what I was going to say, but no, it was just, appreciate some of the people reaching out and offering help. So that's all I had. Again, mcflugel.com/149. We'll link to the video of Grayson Fritts and as well as some of the follow-up stuff. And also, whatever podcatcher you're listening to on this, if you don't mind, leave us a review and a rating. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to us. If you like what we're doing, all those subscriptions and likes and ratings really help us out to get our reach out there. So we appreciate all the listeners and appreciate anything that you can do to help us out. Help us help you. So thanks for listening, and happy belated Father's Day to all the dads out there, and we will catch you next week.
Peace.